It was supposed to be a routine flight, a quiet trip to reconnect with family before our lives changed forever. My wife, Sarah, 8 months pregnant, sat beside me, her hands resting on her belly, her pale blue memory foam pillow cradling her aching back. We were headed to Boston to visit her parents, one last journey before our first child arrived. But what unfolded at 30,000 feet would test our patience, our courage, and our faith in humanity. By the time we landed, a stranger's cruelty would spark a firestorm, expose a web of lies, and unite a plane full of strangers in a fight for justice. This is the story of how one woman's entitlement turned a simple flight into a battle we'd never forget. The morning started with the usual airport hustle at Chicago O'Hare. Sarah and I arrived early, navigating security with her slow, careful steps. At 8 months pregnant, every movement was an effort, but her smile, warm and familiar after 10 years of marriage, kept me grounded. She clutched the U-shaped pillow her mother had sent, a godsend for her back pain. "You got it?" she asked at the gate, her voice tired but hopeful. I patted my carry-on. "Right here, sweetheart." We boarded early, thanks to the airline's policy for pregnant passengers, and settled into row 19, seats A and B, with Sarah by the aisle for easy access. The flight attendant, Linda Harper, greeted us with a smile. "Congratulations," she said, nodding at Sarah's belly. "How far along?" Sarah's eyes lit up. 8 months, 4 weeks to go. Linda's warmth was genuine, promising a smooth flight. I tucked the pillow behind Sarah's back, adjusting it to support her belly. "Better?" I asked. She sighed, relaxing. "So much better. My back's been killing me." The cabin was calm, sunlight streaming through the windows, passengers settling in. Then Diane Kessler appeared. She strode down the aisle like she owned the plane, her floral perfume overwhelming, her designer handbag swinging. Blonde hair in a tight bun, crisp blazer, she checked her boarding pass and stopped at our row, seat 19C, the window. Her eyes locked onto Sarah's pillow, her expression shifting to something sharp, calculating. "Nice pillow," she said, her tone edged with envy. "Must have cost a pretty penny." I kept my voice polite. "It's for my wife's comfort. She's 8 months pregnant." Diane's gaze flicked to Sarah's belly, then back to the pillow, a smirk forming. "Pregnant, huh? I've seen that trick before. People fake it for special treatment." Sarah looked up, hurt flashing across her face. "Excuse me." Diane waved her off. "Just an observation." She shoved her bag into the overhead bin and sat with a dramatic sigh, her body language screaming entitlement. I tried to shake off the unease. Sarah returned to her book, her knuckles white as she gripped the pages. Diane kept glancing at the pillow, her fingers tapping an irritating rhythm on the armrest. The plane filled, the engines hummed, and we taxied toward takeoff. Then, without warning, Diane stood, turned to Sarah, and yanked the pillow from her back. Sarah gasped, lurching forward as the support vanished. Diane clutched the pillow to her chest. "I need this more," she announced loudly, drawing stares from nearby rows. "I have a chronic neck condition. My husband, Robert Langston, is a top lawyer in Boston. I know my rights, and airlines prioritize documented medical needs." Her eyes darted to Sarah's belly, implying a lie. Anger surged, but I forced calm. "That's my wife's pillow," I said, standing. "Please give it back." Diane sat, positioning the pillow behind her neck. "I'll return it when I'm done. I used to manage for this airline. I know the rules better than you." Her cold smile was triumphant. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, her hand on her belly. Linda appeared, notepad in hand. "Is there a problem?" I explained quickly. "This passenger took my wife's pillow. She's 8 months pregnant and needs it." Diane cut in, voice dripping with condescension. "There's no issue, Linda. I have a medical condition. Passenger comfort comes first for people like me." Linda's expression tightened. "Ma'am, personal items belong to their owners. I can get you a pillow from our supply." Diane scoffed. "Your pillows are junk. This one's medical grade. I'm keeping it." Linda wrote something down. "I'm reporting this to the purser. Please stay calm." She walked away, speaking into her headset. Sarah trembled in my arms, whispering, "I'm scared, Tom. What if this stress hurts the baby?" I held her tight, promising, "She won't get away with this." Diane sat smugly, our pillow a trophy. As the plane climbed, I vowed to fight back. I didn't know how yet, but I knew airline policies could be our weapon. The cabin settled into a tense routine. Sarah sat rigidly, hands on her belly, eyes flicking to Diane, who lounged with the stolen pillow. The hurt in Sarah's face, confusion at such cruelty, cut deep. I weighed our options, confront Diane again, or wait for the purser. Doing nothing felt like letting a bully win. Then Sarah surprised me. "Excuse me," she said softly to Diane, her voice polite despite everything. "Could I please have my pillow back? My doctor says it's critical for the baby." Diane turned slowly, her gaze cold. "Still on about this?" she said loudly, drawing stairs. "Honey, I see through your act. Faking a pregnancy for sympathy is pathetic. I have a real medical condition." Sarah flushed, humiliated. "I'm not faking. I'm 8 months pregnant." Her voice cracked. Diane laughed, harsh and mocking. "Sure you are. I've seen women stuff pillows under their shirts for perks. It's disgusting." Passengers gasped. A nurse in row 18, Ellen Brooks, stood. "I'm a labor and delivery nurse with 12 years' experience. That woman is genuinely pregnant, about 32 weeks. You can't fake the way she moves or the swelling in her ankles." Others chimed in. A young man, Jake Miller, in row 20 held up his phone. "I recorded her grabbing the pillow. No permission, just took it." An older woman in row 17 added, "What you're doing is cruel." Diane's face reddened, but she doubled down, pulling out her phone and snapping a photo of Sarah. "For insurance," she sneered, typing rapidly. "Let's see what people think of fake pregnant women stealing from those with real conditions." I demanded she delete it, but she waved me off. Public space. First Amendment. Sarah sobbed quietly, shaking. I held her, rage boiling. Linda returned with another attendant, Michael Ortiz, and the purser, Susan Grant, whose gold-striped uniform signaled authority. Susan addressed Diane firmly. "Ms. Kessler, return the pillow now. Personal items belong to their owners." Diane stood, aggressive. "This is discrimination. I'll sue for neglecting my disability. My husband will bury this airline." Susan's voice stayed calm. "Your refusal is documented. Security will meet us at landing." Diane sat, clutching the pillow tighter, dialing her phone to call her supposed lawyer husband. Passengers recorded, the cabin buzzing with tension. Susan noted witnesses, including Ellen, Jake, and a single mom, Rachel Hayes, in row 19, who spoke of her own struggles flying pregnant. The community's support was palpable, but Sarah's fear grew. She whispered, "My stomach feels tight, Tom. What if it's the baby?" Panic gripped me. I pressed the call button. Michael knelt beside Sarah. "Can you describe the pain?" Sarah's voice shook. "It's constant, in my back and belly. Like contractions, but I'm not sure." Ellen stepped in, checking Sarah's pulse and belly. I felt a strong kick. "These are likely Braxton Hicks contractions from stress, not labor. We'll monitor her." Relief washed over us, but Sarah's fear lingered. "What if I caused this?" she whispered, blaming herself. I held her face. "This is not your fault. She stole from you." Minutes later, Diane stood abruptly, disappearing to the galley. When she returned, her face was flushed, hands shaking. She set the pillow on the empty seat between her and Sarah, staring at her phone in distress. I retrieved the pillow, stunned, and helped Sarah reposition it. She sighed, pain easing. Jake leaned forward, whispering. Her social media post backfired. People found out she was fired from this airline 2 years ago for harassing passengers. Her husband divorced her months ago. She's been lying about everything. Comments online shredded Diane, calling her out for bullying a pregnant woman. Her own post had exposed her. The plane began its descent into Boston Logan. Suddenly, Diane erupted, lunging at Jake. "You ruined my life," she screamed, clawing for his phone. Passengers gasped as she shoved Michael and another witness, Ethan Cole, who tried to intervene. Susan's voice boomed over the intercom. "Ms. Kessler, sit down or be restrained." Diane froze, then collapsed into her seat, sobbing. Michael and Susan secured her wrists with restraints, her defiance crumbling into self-pity. Jake, shaken but unharmed, confirmed he'd recorded the assault. Ethan's smartwatch captured her audio, admitting her plan to manipulate the situation. The plane landed, and passengers stayed seated as 3 officers boarded, led by Officer Paul Reynolds. Susan handed over a thick folder of reports and videos. Diane was detained, sobbing as her lies about her lawyer husband were debunked. Witnesses, including Ellen, Jake, Rachel, and Ethan, stayed to give statements. Sarah and I recounted everything, supported by overwhelming evidence. Officer Reynolds assured us, "This is one of the most documented cases I've seen. Charges will be filed." 2 weeks later, we sat in our Boston apartment, Sarah days from delivery, the blue pillow on our couch. The airline sent a letter from VP Margaret Collins, apologizing and banning Diane for life. They compensated us with $5,000 and future travel upgrades. Diane faced charges of theft, assault, and interference with flight crew, pleading guilty to reduced charges, 6 months in jail, 2 years probation, and restitution. Her social media post, meant to shame Sarah, had instead exposed her history of abuse, prompting other victims to come forward. 3 days later, Sarah gave birth to our daughter, Lily, a perfect symbol of hope. A quilt arrived from the flight's passengers, signed by Ellen, Rachel, and others, wishing Lily a world of kindness. As I held our daughter, I thought of Diane, likely in her cell, still blaming others. But Lily's future would be shaped by the lesson of that flight. Stand up, gather evidence, find allies, and trust that justice can prevail. What would you have done in our shoes? Have you ever faced someone like Diane, whose entitlement hurt others? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Should bullies face harsher consequences, or is there room for redemption? Your voice matters. Let's discuss how we confront cruelty and injustice in our world.